Hello everyone, Chris Buick here for UK Film Review, and I'm going to tell you all about a film that I recently had the great pleasure in watching, which is called All Is Fine in '89, which was written and directed by Matthew Lupis. So, as you might have guessed from the title, this film is set in the year 1989, and it's particularly set at a time in that year when the Berlin Wall was coming down, and after decades of the Cold War between East and West, the world is moving towards, I guess, a more hopeful era in time. But this particular story takes place in your typical American high school at that time, where a group of seniors in their final year are looking forward to what is their last field party of the year, which, for those who are unaware, is exactly what it sounds like. It's a party gathering in a field where the the seniors go to have fun, drink, get together, all that kind of stuff. Um, so everyone's looking forward to this big party, full of hope for a good time and hooking up, etc. But throughout the film, we get a good look at each of the characters as we move towards that point, and ultimately who they are and who they are to each other. And the whole thing all rather culminates in a quite an eventful evening in the end with some dark twists and turns, but I don't want to get too much into any spoilers. Suffice it to say, it's quite the ending. What I do want to get into, however, is how well crafted and immensely detailed this film is, especially with its period setting. So, of course, 80s nostalgia, that's kind of back on the rise at the moment. Obviously, you've got things like Stranger Things and other things, but this film doesn't use the 80s as a gimmick at any point. It's attention to detail to things like hair, clothes, the sounds, music, etc., and the language is all absolutely on point. It's got the right look and feel of a classic such as Breakfast Club or Fast Times at Ridgemont High or 16 Candles, any of those kind of real 80s classics, but it's got more than enough in its own right to set itself apart and become, hopefully, a bit of a classic on its own. Um, on top of all that meticulous attention to detail, the film manages to cover a lot of varied and interesting topics that are as weirdly as relevant today as they were back then. And it looks at a lot of things like insecurities in the youth, sexuality, masculinity in many different forms, and then goes even darker with things like sexual and domestic violence, which it portrays quite sensitively and uniquely. So it's always touching on these important topics while it's entertaining, which is a tricky balance, but pulls it off, no problem. Uh, and delivering all of that, which is the important part, to actually be able to get it across. There's a really, really good company of actors that are, they kind of play out the characters you've seen in these high school dramas before, the staples of the roles. But the performances and the writing of those characters are so good that they don't feel derivative of anything that's come before it, and each one is worth listening to, investing your time with, getting to know, etc. A few specific examples. Obviously, you've got Dylan Hawco as Dean Marino. So Dean is I guess he's the bad boy. He never goes to class, and he only ever wants to hang out with the rest of his gang and girls, etc. And kind of hoping high school never ends. The only time he does go to class is to see Mrs. Applewood, who's played by Shelby Handley, who is the young, attractive teacher who's drawn to Dean herself, as her own marriage and home life is stuck in a bit of a rut. You've also got the big bully character who is played by Tom Keats. Billy's name is Cole Sullivan. he throughout the movie torments Adam Lupis's character Mark, and their relationship and the intricacies of it is kind of key to the film's underlying tensions. And there's a whole host of other great actors who make up the supporting cast, and each one feeling as genuine as the next and feeling as in place as they should be within the story. But the absolute standout for sure is Dani Romero as Linda. Um, their personal narrative in the film is almost certainly the heaviest and most demanding, but they absolutely knock it out of the park. And the emotion and the nuance that they bring to every scene is so heartfelt and hard hitting. It's at times hard to watch, but it's a fantastic performance. For me, this film ticks pretty much all the boxes. It's well cast, it's well written, it's very well made, it's patient, takes its time, and ultimately that approach pays off in the end. Which, and again, the end kind of leaves you guessing all the way up to the last minute as to how everything's going to play out. So I'm hoping and I'm sure that this All Is Fine in '89 will become a bit of a hit on its own when it comes out. So yeah, check it out.